Okay, good evening everyone, and thank you very much for joining us tonight, both here at the Christian Life Centre on Frederick Road in the middle of Selly Oak, and also for those of you joining us online tonight or who view this in the future. I'll do some introductions to start with, and then we'll go through the usual agenda of providing you with updates on crime and antisocial behaviour, and then we'll talk about issues that you're experiencing at the moment and what we can possibly do about them, and then we'll look at setting some priorities for your local neighbourhood team to look at over the next 4 weeks until the next meeting. So for those of you who don't know me, which I'm looking around this room anyway, and I think I know most of you, my name's Simon Williams and I'm your local neighbourhood sergeant for Selly Oak Ward. I'm joined tonight by Karen McCarthy, one of your local councillors, and Vicky Cheplack from Birmingham South Police, who's going to be acting as our facilitator tonight. Now, to introduce that role very quickly, Vicky will be providing any key messages that we need to give out tonight, and most importantly, she'll be live tweeting the comments that you guys have to make, any questions you put to us, our responses, and also any statistics we want to put out relating to crime and social behaviour. I would say that we're all live on air, so although the audience can only see us, they can also hear you. So if you've got a question to ask, can you make sure you speak up nice and loud, no soft, quiet voices, please. Obviously, if you can, good evening to those of you who join us. Would you like to just grab a seat? And as I was about to say, we're obviously live on air, so if you can refrain from using any bad language, and I may ask you to repeat your question if you have been a bit quiet in answering. Is everybody here tonight happy with that? Yes. Yeah, good stuff. Right, thank you. Okay, so first of all, I'll give you an update on the priorities that we agreed this time a month ago. So the first priority was around street drinking, vehicle parking and antisocial behaviour that was being attracted around the area of the Bear and Staff, which is at the Oak Tree Lane junction on Bristol Road. We've only had one log to that location since we last met in September, and that was on the 10th of this month. And it talked about the occupants of a Ford Focus throwing eggs at passers-by and other vehicles who were stopped at red traffic lights at that junction. Now, you might think that was an isolated incident, but we've done some digging around that vehicle, and it's actually been involved in similar incidents outside Dixie Chicken, which is a fast food outlet in Selly Oak, in the middle of Bournebrook, and also up in Moseley. We are investigating those incidents and trying to find out who's responsible. The vehicle has got current keeper insurance, so that will give us a big clue. That's ongoing, so watch this space. I may well be able to provide you with an update this time next month. That area has become part of daily business for our patrols. We've used a tactic of hotspot policing, which I'll explain a little bit more later on as we go, but we've basically been doing a minimum of 3 fields in that area on any given shift, particularly when we're working late. We've found that that's worked pretty well, and one log suggests that actually there may not be an issue there at the moment, and that was somebody passing through. Before I go on to the next update, the next priority that we agreed last month, is there any, have you guys got anything to the contrary around issues Oak Tree Lane, Bear and Staff that you know about? I'm getting silence, which is great news. Okay, thank you. The other issue that we agreed was alcohol-related antisocial behaviour on weekend evenings in Selly Oak Park, which is just off Raddlebarn Road. We've put regular patrols up there at weekends, Fridays.
Selly Oak Park is Gibbons Road.
Sorry, Selly Oak Rec. There is a difference. It's Selly Park Rec even. Thank you, Karen. Selly Park Rec, which is just off Raddlebarn Road. There's some kids' toys. Quite a nice park area at the top of Bournebrook. There's some nice toys there that young kids use, and they were not able to use those because people were drinking up there. We've only had one log again to that area, and that was a couple of days after we last met in September, where there were a couple of males sitting drinking a can of lager on one of the benches near to the play area, and they tried to charge a 9-year-old boy local to the area to get in and play on the toys. We were in the area, went straight out. Unfortunately, we couldn't find those responsible, but we spent some time with that young lad and reassured him that we were in the area. We've patrolled up there every weekend since we last met. Every Friday and Saturday night, I've had officers in the area until at least 4 AM and sometimes 6 AM. And we've had no more calls, and I've had nothing reported back from those officers to say there's been any more issues. We'll keep that one in view, I think, and make sure that we don't take our eye off the ball there. Any questions in relation to that particular issue? Great. Okay, thanks.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
I think we'll come back to the issue of young people feeling safe in our parks, because it is something that's been flagged up by the Children's Society and as part of their Children's Commission work. That's very new, but we will be asked at some point in the future, between all organisations in the area and involved platforms as well, to look at that, about whether children and young people do feel safe. I mean, I've not heard of another incident like that, with a young person being approached. As I say, it will be something we come back to.
Okay, is there a website that people can go onto to have a look at in a bit more detail about that?
I haven't got the link for that one. I've got it on the
So we can put it out via our Twitter account. Lovely. Okay, right. I'm going to provide you with some updates now on crime and social behaviour across Selly Oak. I think I'll start by saying that the good news is that there has been very little in the way of crime and antisocial behaviour of note. Okay, that we've had reported. So I'll start with burglary. In October so far, we've had 6 offences reported, which is a 25% decrease on this time last year. However, there's a bit of context around the burglary, and that is that out of those 6 offences, 2 of them were historic reports, and they're dated back from July and August. So offences actually committed in October so far is actually 4, which is great news. Obviously, that increases the percentage decrease a little bit more, doesn't it? We've had burglaries on the Bristol Road, just as you come out of Selly Oak near to the train station. That one was more than likely a front door that had been left insecure. The occupants suspected that somebody had been in the address, but no items of property had been stolen. So that one remains a little bit of a mystery. It's still being investigated, and we'll give you an update next week on what happens with that one. There was a burglary on Frederick Road, a burglary on Kitchener Road, and most recently, a couple of days ago, a burglary on North Road in Bournebrook. Now, the common theme of all of those burglaries is that entry was gained through rear windows. There was one that was forced, and that was the one that was on Frederick Road. We don't have many burglaries at the moment across Selly Oak, and the ones that we do see tend to be around the Bournebrook area, and they tend to be insecure. But this one on Frederick Road was slightly different. The offenders gained entry to the rear of the premises, and they forced open a UPVC window on a conservatory. When they were in the conservatory, they then smashed a hole in the door and used a key to open the door. So I think really it's probably the right time to remind people that if you are leaving your keys in your doors, don't take your key out and put it on the side. And that goes as much for your front door as it does your back door, because how easy is that? And it's something that if that key hadn't been in there, potentially it might stop people actually getting in. So good evening. How you doing? You all right? Take a seat and make yourself comfortable. Yeah, so as I was saying, that one on Frederick Road, I think the other thing to mention as well is that with the darker nights coming, it's probably the right time to think about, if you are going out, leaving your television on, leave a radio on, Radio 5 or whatever it might be that's got people talking so people hear voices. Leave your lights on. If you've got time switches, use those and plug a lamp in. It all helps. If someone, if a potential offender thinks that there's somebody in the address, more likely than not, they won't bother and they won't look at targeting that address. They'll move on elsewhere. Kitchener Road and North Road, as I said, they were both insecure rear windows. Again, it's getting a little bit colder, but it's that time of year, isn't it, where it only takes you walking out of a kitchen or a living room or a dining room downstairs and popping upstairs to do whatever it is, and coming back down, and all of a sudden it only takes people seconds to get into the back of your house. So I think if you are leaving windows and doors open and unlocked, or letting the cat or dog out, whatever it might be, lock the door again, put the key on the side before you leave the room. So that's burglary. The year to date, we're looking really, really good. We're 17% down on where we were last year. So that means that we've had 23 fewer properties attacked and burgled since this time last year, which is great news for everybody. Just to really push the message home around September's figures as well. This time last year, in September 2013, we saw a huge number of houses that had just been renovated for new students coming into the area in Bournebrook, targeted, where brand new white goods, TVs, toasters, etc., fridges and freezers were being put into addresses, and the next morning people were coming back, the landlords were coming back, and they weren't there. We actually had 40 of those kind of burglaries almost this time last September. We've put some different tactics in place than we had last year. We've extended our patrol time in Bournebrook to the whole of September. We've done an awful lot of work around gating, target hardening of addresses, pushing the message out to landlords before students are coming back home. And we had a total of 15 burglaries this September. Now that's right across the ward, not just in Bournebrook. In a Bournebrook context, it was only a handful, 5 or 6 in fact. So really, really, really good news there. You've heard what I've had to say. I think the risks still remain. It goes to show that even though our burglary figures are really low right across the ward, and there is no particular pattern of burglaries being committed at the moment, people are still out there and people will take the opportunity. So now's really, really good time, just before the nights really draw in to, getting dark at sort of 3:30, 4 o'clock, to make sure that your security in your house is as good as you can afford it to be. So whether that's you making sure your house alarms are working, whether you've got window and door alarms, your timers for lights, etc. Have a look around and make sure that your house is nice and secure. Excellent. Right. Okay.
Before you continue, can you just explain to the audience what logs mean? Because some people had some questions over.
Okay, right, sorry, yeah, so logs. So every time a member of the public phones the police, dials 999 or 101, a log is sometimes created. So that's a call log. We've got a particular system that we call Oasis, which is a command and control system. So we take information from members of the public, and that information then gets passed on to the radio operators working in the 10 areas across the West Midlands, and then that information is passed on to officers on their personal radios. And officers put their updates on there and information about whether a crime's been committed or what our response to any particular call for service was. I think that probably answers that enough. Robbery, we're in a really good position with robbery as well, and we haven't had any offences this month. We had 3 last month in September, but that was followed up by a really excellent job, a really, really good piece of police work, where we had some officers working in the middle of Selly Oak, so the Teignmouth Road area. A young man was coming back home after a night out. He put his key in the door and 3 offenders jumped on him. He was assaulted, kicked and punched to the floor, and he had his mobile phone and wallet taken. The officers witnessed this happen. I mean, talk about being in the right place at the right time. We directed officers actually be down there at that particular time. And after a fairly energetic foot chase, I think it'd be fair to say, these young offenders were between 15 and 17 years old. So they were quick. They were all arrested. The property was recovered, has been returned to the lad who was robbed, and those 3 people that have all been charged. Now, they remain on court bail. They're appearing at Birmingham Youth Court in December, before Christmas, and they are currently being electronically monitored, which means that they've got a tag around their ankle, which will tell us, the police and the Youth Offending Service, whether they're in or out. They're currently on a curfew, which means that they have to be in at 9 PM and they can't go out until at least 6 AM in the morning, which I think has gone a long way to meaning that this month we've had no robbery offences. Again, you know, make absolutely no mistake about it, these offenders are known for that particular offence, and they are being really robustly managed by my team, by the offender management team at Bournemouth Police Station, and also by the Youth Offending Service. So again, look out later in the year for a bit of an update from court, and we'll be able to give you an outcome of that. Year to date wise, we've got showing a 34% reduction in robbery, which means that we've had 8 less victims of robbery than we had last year, which again is really, really good news. Vehicle crime wise, so I've got a question.
I reported could have been a robbery at the time. My wife was walking down the road, reported it, people from the pub coming down, asking her for money. I turned around and said to her, well, ain't moving around, I've got to look in you first for any money. And she just carried on walking. I reported it, but nobody came out at the time. I told them where he was, and from what I think ever afterwards, she weren't the only one.
No, you're absolutely right. And I just on another note, if I can keep questions to a little bit later on after I've given you your updates, and then you've got half an hour or so to ask whatever you like. But really, really, really good point. We know who those people are. You're absolutely right. Was it your wife, you said?
Yeah.
Your wife wasn't the only one that was approached. We would describe that as probably aggressive begging rather than an offence of robbery or theft from a person.
One can see it as, you won't call it begging, but if she's got a purse out or whatever, but a woman on her own, walking down, somebody, I don't know, like 25 or whatever it was, comes up to sees it, or can see Joe.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, but let me put it in context for you and wrap it up, and you'll see why it's begging and why it's not robbery. The people that you're talking about are well known to us. Over the last year or so, they have approached quite a number of people from the middle of Bourne Brook to Selly Oak train station, outside the pub just around the corner, the building staff, and obviously the example that you've given us. And you're absolutely right. We did pick up on that log. We are working with one of the local neighbourhood teams. Those 2 particular potential offenders live about 5 or 6 miles away as the crow flies, under the ward area. They are quite well known, but we're trying to divert them into pathways for housing, employment, training that will stop them going around and begging people for money. They are on a bit of a final warning as far as coming into Selly Oak and asking people for money goes. It's a delicate balance dealing with offences like that. There's always a reason behind it, but you're absolutely right. It's something that people should be really vigilant of. If you do get approached by anybody asking for money, I think the right thing to do is probably, as your wife did, is say, I'm really, really sorry, but as polite as you can, and just walk on. If you feel threatened or feel like something's going to happen there and then, you need to phone 911.
We followed it down the road and everything, so.
Okay. Can I just keep other questions just a little bit later on, if that's all right, and I'll carry on with the updates, and then we can move through the agenda like that, if that's all right. Vehicle crime wise, we're again showing there are no particular patterns, no particular issues. We've had October so far 10 offences, which is one more than we had this time last year. But across the course of the whole year, we've actually had 29 less offences, which is a 26% decrease on this time last year. So it's good news again. But the offences that we have seen, we've actually had 4 or 5 registration plates stolen, which obviously comes under vehicle crime. It's a theft from a motor vehicle. We've had some wheel trim stolen from a vehicle, and we've had one vehicle that was insecure, that was in the middle of Bourton Brook, where the door was opened and someone's had a rummage around the glove box, but actually didn't steal anything because there wasn't anything but stealing in there. So I think, you know, the general message is there is no pattern, but make sure when you are walking away from your car, particularly if you've got central locking. West Midlands Police has put some PR around this recently. Some of you may have seen it. Make sure you click and then try the door rather than just walking away, because we all lead busy lives these days, don't we? And I've done it. I'm sure most people have at some point. You know, you might click the wrong button, or your car isn't quite locked, or you might have left your seatbelt in that locking mechanism, which means it hasn't locked. But there are people out there who are waiting to take advantage of that. So just, you know, click it and then check it. I can't remember what the exact phrase on the PR we put out was.
Check your fob has done its job.
There you go. Vicky's in there. Check your fob has done its job. Excellent. Right. Just in terms of all recorded crime, again, the news is really good. We've had 35 less victims of crime across Selly Oak than this time last year, which is just under a 5% decrease. So things are looking and heading in the right direction, and we're really, really pleased with that. Antisocial behaviour. The good news continues, really. The calls for service logs that we talked about earlier on, so far this month we've had 28. Now, the bulk of those are to do with student parties that have taken place, or house parties that take place down in Bourton Brook in the middle of Selly Oak. This time last year, we'd had 45. So that's a 37% reduction in demand. How have we done that? Well, there's lots of things that we've done, but I think in the simplest terms, we've looked at our crime and calls for service data in a little bit more detail. And we've looked at where we've got hotspots of crime, calls for service, and social behaviour. And we've put, you know, I mentioned earlier, those 15-minute patrols, and we've put officers in those areas during those times when antisocial behaviour is most likely to occur. And they've gone and done their patrols, gone away from the area, come back a couple of hours later, completed another 15 minutes. We've done at least 3 of those in each of those areas, and I think that that's gone a long way to reducing the number of calls we've got, and it's had a really good deterrent effect on would-be people who wanted to cause what we now call antisocial behaviour. So that's all good news. Now it's your turn. So, have I got any questions, comments, or otherwise from people in the room?
One comment about the key in the door. Yeah. Try to put it behind a plant party, still out of sight, or at least 2 arms length away from the door, so they can't smash it with the down and still get it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have seen some offences, not in Selly Oak and not recently at all. In fact, I can't remember one in the last year, but people have used telescopic magnets, so-called fish hooks that people have put through a letterbox. And if you've got your car keys or your house keys on a hook, and a lot of us do, you know, they hook them off, or they've got magnets on and so forth. So yeah, absolutely, really, really good point.
At 2 arms length away, at least behind a flower pot or something like that, so they can't actually visually see them.
Absolutely. I know we had a question over here.
Yes, about the aggressive begging. Are you talking about white and a black?
No, I'm talking about a white female and a white male.
Sarge, can I just ask you a few questions, because this audience are saying they can't hear the audience.
Okay.
A black male and a white male who have been bothering and asking for money, but to men, not to women.
Okay, so for our online audience, we're talking about aggressive begging now, or begging generally. And the question that we had when we were given the crime and social behaviour updates, the people that we've identified and spoken to have been a man and female who have both been white. As I described earlier, they don't live in Selly Oak. They live a little way away, but we're dealing with those, and we hope we've got those under control. It's just been raised that there may be another couple of people, a black male and a white male, who are targeting other men basically for money.
Asking for bus fare.
Right, asking for bus fare money. Okay, is there any particular location or time or date?
I don't know if we asked the man to figure out his change, but he said no. And he's got information on the push out and trying to delay him. And he's going to.
Did you phone that into us? Okay. I think I end up saying this at the end or during each of these meetings now, but I won't get tired of saying it. It's the same old rule, isn't it? If you see something, don't be afraid of saying something. So if you do see some crime in action, as you've just described, or something that the police really need to know about, pick up the phone and ring 999, or if it's not an emergency, pick up the phone and ring 101 and just let us know. For a couple of minutes worth of your time, the information you guys have got to provide may well just provide us with the missing piece of the jigsaw in an investigation or group of people or a location that we're looking at. So, okay. It's all right, no, don't apologise at all, but next time, phone it in, please. Yes, go ahead.
I was victim in those comments of antisocial behaviour a few weeks ago, was doing my little. This man was going around the bins and investigating the contents of the bins, and he saw me with a bag. He came and wanted to know what was in my bag, so I replied, "This is rubbish, I'm picking up litter." He didn't believe me and started pulling on the bag, so I let go of the bag. And when he realized it was rubbish, he lost his temper. His arms were all over the place, he gave high kicks. So, and he walked away and started swearing at him loudly. So I rang 999, and the procedure, what you just mentioned, was followed, and an officer came to speak to me, recorded what happened. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Just for our online audience, just in case you didn't hear that, basically, one of our local residents from Langley's Road, if I'm right in thinking, just across the way, 3 weeks ago was picking some litter, which is brilliant, thank you for doing that, and was approached by a male who basically approached her and asked what was inside the bag. It was described that the bag just contained rubbish and that you were litter picking, and the male sort of grabbed the bag off you, saw it was rubbish, and then lost his temper. Thank you for reporting that. I think that was before our last tasking meeting, if I'm right in thinking, possibly. But I'll double check that when I get back to the station, and see what our response was, because it would be right. Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. A question here.
Here I was getting back to people asking me for money. About 12 months ago, in Giggins Road, a woman came over the park, and she approached me and she says that she'd gone over, come to find her husband money and got no money. Could I help her out? So I thought it was super genuine, so I gave her a call. Now, 4 weeks ago, I saw the same woman approach somebody else, and I thought, oh, what's going on here? And sure enough, somebody else found this money. Now, last week, she obviously didn't recognise me. She saw me again, and this time she lost the bus pass. Could I help her with some money? This time I was sorry. Now, I didn't report it in. I don't know whether I should. But, I mean, she's obviously someone who's doing this all the time.
Right, okay. I think you and I need to have a bit of a conversation after the meeting, and I'll take a few more details off you. and possibly get you to look at a photo book. I think I know who that might be. I won't say any more at the moment, but we'll talk about it a little bit later if that's all right. But yeah, okay, thank you. I think you know, when we're looking at priority setting a little bit later on, I'm thinking that we might want to take a little bit more of a look at begging. Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you very much. Any more questions from you guys? You are quiet tonight. Yes, go.
What is the law of caravans being parked on the front with electric lead coming out in Lodge Road, number 45? It's been there a few months now.
I don't know what the law is, but I can check what the planning
I mean,
situation.
the electric lead's underneath tonight, but there are times when I've seen them put it through the lounge or whatever window.
Is this the same one that was mentioned before?
Yes, well,
yeah. The only thing I can think of is whether it's a planning issue, that it's being used for somebody to live in. Obviously, lots of people have caravans and keep them on their front.
Some councils have rules, don't they, because of people's viewing, you know, because it's only the length of the caravans that go, and it's not.
I haven't seen anybody occupying it.
I've seen them probably too.
Yeah, I know it's got a deed, but I haven't seen anybody because
she opens the windows.
So,
yeah, I think
disgusting, that's very.
Yeah, I think the issue probably is whether somebody's living in it, because if you're going to take it away at weekends, you need to charge the batteries up. So
I am keeping an eye on it.
I know.
She's nearer than me.
Is the caravan parked on private property?
Yes, yes.
Right, okay, so it's not on the road or anything like that?
Some councils have rules, I mean.
I'm not sure.
You can't park a caravan. Like it's in the deeds or
yeah, I'm not sure what the bylaws or deeds for that property say, but okay, is it causing any particular issue?
Well, it's the site. I mean, it's not a nice broad thing, the caravan. It's an old building.
Okay, maybe we can go knock on the door and ask them to give it a spring clean. Okay, have we got any more questions from? Okay, we've got a couple coming. Can
It's from a resident from Leamington.
Okay.
He has noticed that the number of cyclists on pavement is on the increase. What are you proposing to do about it? So it's a big problem because the policeman on his bike was passing around the window.
It's a really good question. So the question from the from our neighbourhood watch resident on Langley's Road was around cyclists and an increase in cyclists being seen using pavements in the area, and what the police going to do about it. Okay, your local PCSO, PCSO Wayne Lawrence for this area, I've asked Wayne to have a look at contacting the younger people who are living around the Langley's Road area and those few roads around Langley's Road, who we think are using pedal cycles on the pavements, and just engaging with them, writing them a bit of a letter, and just asking them to be really considerate when they are using their bikes. I mean, the police have got various options. You know, we can start issuing fixed penalty notices for people that are cycling on a pavement. However, I think, you know, we have to look at the context of it, and we have to also look at the risks to cyclists when they're riding on the road. I think it's a really tricky issue, and I think it's something that probably needs to be addressed at a little bit of a higher level, you know, between police and council, and making our roads a little bit safer so cyclists have got the confidence, and an increase in cycle lanes, etc. I've got some empathy with cyclists, but you know, ultimately there needs to be consideration, and they ought to be using the roads. So we will look at trying to target the small number we think who are using their pedal cycles in that way around Langley's Road. Question?
Do you patrol Dawlish Road?
Yes. The question was, do we patrol Dawlish Road? The answer is yes.
I've been there for a year.
Okay. Okay.
I've only ever found things for them. And I'll never find them again.
Okay, so the young lady in the audience it sounds like a permanent resident of Dawlish Road in Selly Oak, lived there for 4 years, has only phoned us once, but now hasn't got confidence.
I think my favourite time is having my phone every hour, every night. Because there's a drama every night.
Okay. Dawlish Road is in the middle of Bournebrook. It's one of the longest roads that run through Bournebrook, and the vast majority of houses on that road are occupied by the student community who are there for 32 weeks of the year during the academic year. We've got some really strong relationships with the Guild of Students, the university, in tackling antisocial behaviour. I'm not entirely sure what issues that you're having. Is it
just noise and my car gets damaged regularly, she's friendly and just not just anything for it. Maybe every day every night.
Okay, I understand why, and maybe we can have a chat at the end as well, just to talk in a bit more detail about your experience in calling us, and hopefully you can leave here tonight and have confidence to give us a call again. But we have a staged antisocial behaviour warning process in place for students from the university who live in Selly Oak, Dawlish Road being one of those roads, who cause noise nuisance, which is something that you've just mentioned. You know, we've had cases that have got so bad, and only 2 in the last 12 months, I hasten to add, where our warnings haven't worked, and we've got in touch with the guarantors, which tend to be parents or carers or, you know, close family members, who, as soon as they know that the police and the university are involved in that house, or their son or daughter's causing what we now call antisocial behaviour and noise nuisance, the families have come down and they've removed people from the houses and they've relocated them elsewhere. It's a really powerful contact that we've got there, and it goes back to what I mentioned earlier on. If you don't phone and tell us about it, we don't know about it.
If the guys on my phone, a decent amount till like 4 hours later, I'm having to stay up till students are over 2 years, and I can't tell you what they look like and they are when they leave. So I literally got a letter in the door the next day, and she's calling.
Yeah, it's really important that you do phone us. I think the experience, and this is something we talked about at tasking meetings in the past, and people have questioned their experience when they do phone the police and report noise nuisance. The West Midlands Police default response, if you phoned 101 or 999 to report having a house party or noise nuisance outside your address, would more likely than not be to report it to the Environmental Health Department of the County Council. Now, we all know at 4 o'clock in the morning that you're not going to do that. You're going to put the phone down and you're probably not going to be very happy with what you've just been told, which may have been the case that's happened. Let me make it quite clear of the approach that we take in Selly Oak. Selly Oak is quite unique. Or at the heart of it, you've got 30 roads that house about 12,500 students in an area less than 1 square kilometre in size. It's a back-to-back Victorian terraced area, so you know the houses are nice and cosy together. If you have got students having a party next door, or a couple of doors away, or even in the street at the back, it is very likely that you're going to hear noise. Please call us. Okay, the neighbourhood team are the ones that are responsible for putting a response in around noise and social behaviour. I have now got a team of 4 officers that work till 4 or 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday and Saturday nights, and very soon they'll be working Wednesdays as well to cover the regular sports night that the university has, which also attracts some antisocial behaviour. So that has been a little bit of a change. So you may well get a bit of a better response in the future. However, if we're not on duty, or those officers are conducting patrols or engaged in police work elsewhere, those logs will get picked up by us either the following day or when we come back after the 2 or 3 days off that we have. So please rest assured, if you do phone us and you have that experience, don't lose faith. We will contact you. We will come and visit you if that's what you want, and we will look to identify who was having the party, who was causing the issue, and they will be given a warning. And that, sorry, Karen.
I've always found it helpful when I get through to somebody who thinks it's still environmental health of the people to deal with that, to say that you've said that if your team are on duty and they're not dealing with something else, then they want to know about those issues, and that seems to help. If you use Twitter, the team are very often responsive to that as well. Obviously, they're not stopping to tweet if they're rushing around dealing with crime. At least I hope they're not.
No, we're not.
But I have had Dawlish Road raised with me recently, so I suspect that we've got off to a bit of a bad start. Now, I know that Dawlish Road in particular is not just student noise. I'm talking about on-street noise as well as street parties. We've got one of the pubs that longer-term residents use by there, and we do from time to time see police cars outside there as well. And I understand that the incident that was reported to me the other night was in fact not student-related.
Which one was that?
The one I raised with you by email. It was in one of the back areas.
Ah, yes, right. Okay.
But the perception is always that it's students, when it's actually a bit more of a mix. It is mostly students that have parties, and we've got that process, and if we can get hold of you, I know that people will. I know that in particular, Hayley has dealt sternly with some parties in the area. But it is also people coming into the area because we've got pubs and clubs, and not always behaving very well either. I know you're going to tell us about your new scheme for dealing with that, but I just wanted to say that there did seem to be a particular problem around Dawlish Road at the moment.
Yeah, thank you ever so much for raising that. And we'll speak later about exactly where on Dawlish Road you live. I don't, say your home address now, wherever you do. Yeah, and I'll be really interested to have a conversation with you. So at least take your phone number so I can get one of my team to catch up with you and find out where the issues are. And like I said, if we are experiencing issues on Dawlish Road, and it's not something that we've seen a pattern of, particularly with antisocial behaviour that's been called up. But again, if it's the unreported stuff and the stuff that we're being told at a bit of a later date, then maybe we need to have a look at that as being a priority for us as well.
You did have police officers come round, not identified before. But it was like a vehicle and safe job, well-being.
Oh, right, okay, so I think...
They didn't knock on the door, they just themselves in, the doors unlocked.
Yeah, that's it's something that we do really regularly in Bournemouth. Right, okay. It may well even have been me. With a couple of our colleagues, but one of the things that we do to combat burglary, as I said, if you get burgled, particularly in Bournebrook, you've heard about the other ones that I mentioned earlier, and they were rear and secure windows. But we had a pattern last year where houses were being broken into because people had left their front doors unlocked, not turning that key behind them when they walked in. Student houses are particularly guilty of that because you sometimes got 8 or more people living in one house, so it's difficult to keep track of who's in or out. But equally, I've walked into quite a number of permanent resident houses down in Bournebrook recently, and yeah, but I think you would prefer it to have the police walk in before a burglar. And really, the reason why we do that, and we often do it with the Guild students and the community wardens that are students themselves, is to really highlight the risks around having lax security and not thinking about your door being locked, which is some really quite basic stuff, isn't it?
Some people actually leave the key in, because I've done this week, I've only gone to a door and the key's been in the lock. So I've rung the bell, and when they come to the door, I've come to the door.
There you go.
And you'll do that.
No, yeah, we've all done it at some point, haven't we? No, we'll have a quick chat later and I'll grab your phone number if that's all right. Thank you very much. Have we got any online questions, Vicky?
We do. We've got a question from Search the News. They want to know what the psychopath crime statistics have been for our ward.
That's a good question, and it's one that I can't answer, and I'm not going to make it up. I don't know what the cycle theft figures are. I know that is this specifically around the Sturtley area?
I'm guessing based off, they said around the district.
Right.
So.
Cycle theft is something that we do see in overall crime and overall thefts around Selly Oak. It's a really big student area again, but you know, lots of people use bikes. It's something that we constantly look at. We have a really good relationship again with the University of Birmingham officer who bases himself upon the campus a lot of the time, and that particular officer does run what we call capture bike operations. You'll have seen on the television on shows like BBC's Caught Red-Handed that we've got a number of cars, a number of houses where we've got cameras in to record people committing crime that we then use as evidence to go, number one, identify them and then deal with them appropriately. However, we've got a number of pedal cycles as well that are deployed most of the time throughout, certainly through the academic terms, not just on Birmingham University campus, but around Selly Oak area as well. So I can tweet a little bit later on the number of cycle thefts we've had, but I can't answer that question off the top of my head, unfortunately.
We had one come in anonymously via Facebook saying, can you ask what's being done about speeders on Gregory Avenue, B29, as residents request to speed them? Thank you. Okay, Gregory Avenue, although it has a B29 Selly Oak postcode, it actually falls on Wheely Castle ward. What I'll do is I'll pass that message on to the local ward sergeant for Wheely Castle, and I will ask them to put something out on their local Twitter page all through Birmingham South Partners in the next couple of days, if that's okay. Any more questions online? Not at the moment. Okay, before we go on to the last part of the meeting, which is you guys agreeing what priorities the police are going to look at, and I think listening to what you said, I can guess what you're going to say. I'll just give you an update on something that initiative that we've launched this weekend. I have a prop here, so for those of you who are online, and I'll pass this around the audience. The poster there says, "Are you trolleyed?" And basically we're giving breath kits to the door staff and supervisors at all the licensed venues, pubs, including the Guild of Students in Bournebrook. The hashtag for this on Twitter is #DeepBreath, and feel free to pass that around and have a look at it. So I can hear you all saying, where has this come from, this mad idea of giving police breath kits to pubs? Well, more and more now, and I think you've probably heard me talk about evidence-based policing maybe a little bit at previous meetings. Policing across England and Wales and actually internationally are looking at the evidence of what works. So if we're going to try something, or if we're going to make a change in our tactics or policing style or our response to a particular issue, we want to know, has something been tried elsewhere that's worked to reduce that issue? So we've had a look at public place violence. So this time last year, I was faced with a document from our analysts that told us that Selly Oak and the High Street, particularly around Dawlish Road that you mentioned earlier on, the Bristol Road and the pubs, and I'll include the Guild of Students in this, had an issue with public place violence. So that means where we've had calls for service, where people have described fights or violence occurring, and also all recorded assaults. So where people have anything from really nasty woundings to what we call common assaults, where somebody might have been kicked or punched or slapped and it's not left a particularly lasting injury. Norfolk and the Norwich nighttime economy had a similar issue to this. They're slightly larger than Selly Oak, with about 3 times the number of venues, but a really big student population. They trialled this and they gave all their nighttime venues breath kits, and they randomly, as a condition of entry, so not everybody coming into the venue, but randomly, and also targeting those people who appeared to be already drunk, asked them to provide a breath sample. Now, they worked on double the drink drive limit. So the drink drive limit in this country is 35 micrograms of alcohol in 100 millilitres of breath. So the nighttime economy in Norwich was working on 70, which is, as I said, double the drink drive limit. And if a person blew more than that, it was used in conjunction with their behaviour to make a decision on whether they were going to be an entry or not. Norfolk saw, across the course of December last year, where their public place violence has historically peaked, a reduction in alcohol-related arrests by 66% and a reduction in all recorded violent crime by 32%. Now, that seems to me to be pretty good evidence that that might work. Now, it might not work in Selly Oak, but the only way we'll find out is by trying it. So for the next 8 or 9 weeks until the end of this year, there's 8 venues in Selly Oak, including the Guild of Students, which is the busiest one. It's the biggest venue. It holds about 2,500 people on a Friday and Saturday night. I'm going to be trying this. So first weekend's come and gone. The Guild of Students, I think, breathalyzed upwards of 50 people. It was, in the main part, really well received, and people were intrigued to know how the breath kits worked, and wanted to have a go. Of course, there's those people who are entitled to their opinion and were a little bit sceptical about it. And if you look on our social media pages, you'll see some quite interesting replies, and we've responded to those already. Quite rightly, people are concerned that why the police supported an initiative like this. It's been run through the Pub Watch scheme that we've got. So Pub Watch is a national scheme where we have a relationship and information sharing between licensees, staff at pubs and the local police to try and reduce incidents around nighttime venues and the nighttime economy. But the highest reading that the Guild of Students had over the weekend was 138. Now, if you look at what the medical profession say around alcohol poisoning, they say alcohol poisoning starts at about 128. Now, when you look at breathalyzers in a road policing context, which is what we normally use them for, 138 is not the highest reading that we've ever seen. And let's not forget that these are handheld breath kits. They are calibrated and they're more accurate than they've ever been, but it's not an evidential specimen of breath that we've taken at the station. It's a guide, but 138, that person was quite rightly refused entry. That was the only refusal that we had on the night. And let me be really, really clear about this. The reason why we're doing, while we're supporting this initiative through the Pub Watch to the venues in Selly Oak, is not to spoil people's nights out. Not to create an atmosphere where some people have said it's a police state. It's absolutely quite the contrary. It's to try and reduce the number of victims of assault and violent crime, and it's to try and make Selly Oak a safer and more enjoyable place to spend your time on a night out. It links in directly with alcohol, with antisocial behaviour, as you quite rightly raised earlier on, the issues around Dortmund Road, and it ties in really, really nicely with a lot of the stories that have been in national press recently about alcohol harm. And the cost that has, not just to policing actually, but to the National Health Service. And it's something that I've been the neighbourhood sergeant for Selly Oak for over 12 months now, and I've personally seen young people and residents and other people coming out of from out of town into Selly Oak, having had so much to drink that they fall out of taxis, they fall over at the side of the road, they're so drunk they can't tell me their name or where they live, or they're in such a state of drunkenness that we have to take them to the nearest accident and emergency department. which obviously has, you know, a knock-on effect to demand for them as well. So, you know, what we want people to do is to drink responsibly, have a really good night out, have fun as we, you know, as we expect people to do, but just think about how much you're drinking before you go out, and you know, make sure you stay safe. At the end of the day, we want people to get back home having had a good night, rather than, you know, ending it in accident emergency, or with us having to help them out in one way or another. So that's it, really.
I'm going to come over all mother hen now and ask whether the protocol on this allows for sort of duty of care response if somebody comes up with a reading of 138. Is there a responsibility if it's the venue that's actually carrying this out? Is there an expectation that somebody with a reading like that will be assisted if necessary?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, all the door staff and all the venues in that are signed up to the pub watch agreement, you know, have that duty of care, as do we. You know, and the overriding advice that we've given to everybody is, if you feel someone is so drunk that they can't help themselves, then you need to, you know, either call for an ambulance, or you know, if they are at, you know, serious risk of harm, then I suggest you call the police. It's again really subjective. I've come across people who have blown really high numbers who are driving, who, to speak to, you wouldn't think that would cause a problem. And again, drunkenness has got lots of different factors. It's a subjective thing. It's quite a complicated area of business, really, trying to identify whether someone's safe to go home or not. But yeah, overwhelmingly, the response should be, we'll try and look out for people, certainly with those kind of readings. Any more online questions?
No.
Okay, guys, I've listened to what you've had to say tonight, and I think priority-wise, we normally set 2. What are your thoughts? We've talked about antisocial behaviour around the Dawlish Road area particularly. We've talked about begging around Oak Tree Lane and the park and down into Selly Oak. We've talked about pedal cyclists using pavements. And well, you've obviously heard what I've had to say about crime and right across the ward. Are there any particular priorities that you would like us to look at on your behalf during the next month and put some real focus behind?
Do you know when you mentioned motoring, bro? The problem with motoring.
Which one was that?
Well, I know you haven't mentioned it there, but the lights here at Selly Oak, red lights, people jumping that. Right,
okay. Unfortunately, my officers and the road policing departments that the West Midlands Police has can't be omnipresent. We can't be everywhere. It's really clear to me that we have a big problem, more during rush hour rather than during evening time. At the junction with Oak Tree Lane and Bristol Road at the Bear and Staff, where my team have gone out twice on earlies this week and policed the bus lane. The bus lane is for buses.
Can I mention something about that? You know what problem that's caused there?
Sorry, say that again.
Do you know what problem that has caused there?
What, my officers going out and policing the bus lane?
The one where Scott nearly gets run over standing in the middle of the road because they're turning left from the middle lane.
When they go into Hardwall Lane, they're going to do it using middle lane.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah, that's the problem with that one. We were all out there.
Yeah.
did they fight to cross over?
Yeah, I think Karen might be. I think it's down to road layout, and it's obviously down to individual motorist responsibility to do the right thing. You know, the left turn is clearly marked where you should come into the bus lane, and if people can't be patient enough to turn left, you know, you can't turn left from that middle lane. It's a straight on lane only, and it will cause problems. I absolutely totally agree. Which is one of the reasons why my team, as and when they can, they do go up to make sure that it's highlighted to motorists and they try and do the right thing. Am I right in saying, Karen, that road layout in the next few years or so may be rejigged with the investment in the area?
Yes, but there was also, on that morning where we had officers to have a look, and Scott was standing out there trying not to get run over by people turning left in the middle lane. There was a suggestion that they could make the bus lane more porous at that point and get a balance between people, because the points at which they can get into the bus lane to turn left are quite restricted, that they can improve that without having people use it when they're going straight on. So I'll check whether that's happened. The other thing is, for the next ward committee, which I think is the start of December, we've got a bit of a transport theme going, so we're hoping to have Amy and highways people along to that. Yeah.
Well, I've been out with Amy, highways people, and about these lights. And I've seen them, talked to them. I've actually told them what they need to do. They don't listen to you. Don't matter what you say or anything. This has been a big bugbear for over 5 years. The light's there. When you go to cross, there isn't enough crossing time when the red light comes on for people to cross to say it's a cross. It's only on for a few seconds. You don't come on until halfway through when the traffic stops. When you look at the far set of lights, they need a visor on.
We were promised that.
I went out and I showed them exactly at the night time. This was over 18 months ago. And it's still nothing being done. And what they do, they pull up the first set of lights, they seem to miss the middle set to look at, they look at the far set, when then change green, they will then go. And people are crossing the road. If they had a visor on, so the people who are sitting 50 yards back can't see them, then all well and good, they will know then not to go across, because the people coming out of Oak Tree Lane are coming round onto the Bristol Road to get down towards the city centre. The lights change green for them, and the people who are on Bristol Road waiting to go see their far ones change green, and they think it's there, and they'll go across, and there's people crossing the road and everything. So
I'll check back on that, because I'm sure they did agree to do that. And you're right, they haven't done it yet. They've had some changes of personnel, whether that means that the shuttering for those lights is sat somewhere waiting to be asked for. We'll see what we can find out.
Thank you for raising that point, gents. Really, really good point. So just going back to the priorities that you want us to look at, would it be fair to say that you would like us to look at the antisocial behaviour issues around the Dawlish Road area, along with the begging that quite a few of you have talked about, actually? Is everybody in agreement? The ayes have it, I think. Okay, lovely. Right, moving on then, very quickly, just to the last few bits of tidying up. Our next meeting, if you can join us, is going to be down at the Elim Church in Bournebrook. It will be on Monday, the 24th of November at 7 p.m. It's the local ward tasking. Yeah, same as tonight, but just a different venue. Yeah, so if you can join us, please do so. We'll try and get that one broadcast online as well. IT providing, of course. Fingers crossed this one's gone out okay. The last thing to say, really, and I'm going to use the rest of the props I've got here now. Mischief Week starts next week. It's half term, and you know, historically and traditionally, I think that we have seen a rise in antisocial behaviour, and obviously with trick or treating, etc. We've got a number of items to give out tonight, certainly for the neighbourhood watch coordinators, if you can pass them on to, you know, elderly and vulnerable people who won't want trick and treaters at your door. We've got some of these. Okay, just a polite way of saying, look, thanks very much, enjoy yourselves, but we don't want you at the door. So please help yourselves to those. If there's anybody online who wants them, please get in touch on our Twitter or email us, go online or give us a call, and we'll get some delivered out to you. You'll see an increase in patrols in areas like Selly Oak Park, Selly Park Rec, let me get that one right, and areas where we've had antisocial behaviour, particularly the main Bristol Road getting through Selly Oak as well. We've done a lot of work with schools right across Birmingham South, actually, not just in Selly Oak, giving out literature to children just to make sure that people have been really considerate around, you know, fireworks and trick or treating, so to speak. And also of note, we will be conducting, and again, this is not just Selly Oak, right across the board during the next week or two, we're going to be conducting a number of test purchase operations. So we've got members of the community, young members of the community who are signed up to buy alcohol and buy fireworks, because obviously you have to be 18 to do both. So look out for those. We'll be publicising those as and when we've done them. So there we go, really. Any more questions before I say thank you and good night?
Not a question, but a suggestion.
Okay.
Bristol Road, they're creating the straight alleys on those two lanes.
Good suggestion. I think Karen will take that away and pass it on to Aidan.
Obviously, when the central lane used to be straight across or turn right, they moved it to the left-hand lane, straight across to turn left, and the other two are right-hand turns.
Good suggestion.
At the bottom of Frederick Road and Gibbons Road, what I've noticed last couple of days is on Gibbons Road, as you're going out to Frederick Road and to the right, there's a piece of ground from the road, and especially last night, when I come to turn out of Frederick Road, I couldn't see anything coming because there were cars were actually parked on this piece of ground 3D. And it weren't just one lane, there was 3 lots of cars 3D. And it's double yellow lines as you're around the corner. And the first set of cars were actually inside the yellow line. So all 3 cars in 30 could have been booked.
Okay, I think there's a couple of things that spring to mind. I know we've double curbed, haven't we, quite a lot of Gibbons Road.
Yeah.
What down there, don't matter if you double curb it or not, because the driveways for people to get onto the drives.
Yeah.
So they'll still come up the drive and onto the lane anyway.
Okay, I can certainly ask my PCSOs to go and have a look, but I think also maybe message back to the council, to the traffic wardens as well.
Getting back to that point, on the corner of Gibbons Road and Frederick Road, the council, years ago, we asked, and they put 2 large planters to prevent this illegal parking, what we call illegal parking. Now, I think the council put it in the wrong place, because these cars are just circling all around, and you see that there's no.
So are these already in existence and could just be moved to prevent?
On the Residents Association, we had these to the council, and they come and put these 2 planters, but it was only decided where to put them. So they just sort of put them and went. But now, after all this problem, we're still getting, I think these planters are in the wrong place. Now, I don't know how heavy they are, but I was going to suggest a couple of strong guys could just shove them together.
I don't think they
Full of them.
I think they probably
Okay, so maybe we can get just the local contractors to sort of that. Okay, right. Just one last point, please.
It's just on Twitter with the community speed watch. Is that something that we get involved in the next meetings, or?
Yes, it is.
It is, because it's an issue on Gibbons and Lodge.
Okay, I think PCSO Wayne Lawrence is becoming a celebrity around this area, because he's your man, he's your go-to guy, along with PC Mark Lamb. It's their beat. They've got they've got total responsibility for that area. They have been completing speed enforcement checks on Strathding Road, Gibbons Road, and Lodge Hill Road, thank you, during the course of the last month or so. They've done 1 community speed watch, I think, as well, that's been reported back to me. We're quite happy, we're more than happy to go and do some more. We've got one planned actually, a speed enforcement morning planned for Monday next week.
I think actually seeing residents involved, then people might start a bit more note, because I have actually sat in the car numbers and I get so people that I just abandoned it because I was sat in my car and was like, I know they're going to do something about Lodge Hill, but it's still lots of people doing, you know, big speed.
Okay, well, Monday, fair warning to motorists, Monday morning we'll be doing speed watch
On Lodge Hill.
on Lodge Hill in Gibbons.
Do you know when the our humps are coming in Lodge Hill? We've had a notice.
No, not yet. I've spoken to my daughter about it.
Right, thank you ever so much for coming along tonight. Your input's been really, really appreciated. Please do keep coming along to these meetings because, you know, these are for you and they're only as good as your involvement. So thank you again. Thanks very much, and we'll see you at the next one.
When's the next one?